All right, so I'm back at The Art We Are for the second time to record another episode of Cameo Podcast. This episode, again, is sponsored by Podcast Republic. So if you have an Android phone and you are new to the podcasting world, it's a fantastic app. I highly recommend it. They also have the ability to subscribe to radio stations. I'm obsessed with the idea of Canadian radio. I think what I'm doing is kind of a radio program of sorts, kind of like RFR, Radio Free Roscoe, if you're of my generation. And today, or right now, because I've already recorded one episode today, right now across from me is Corey of Spectra Services. I came across Per. Art We Are had a poster of one of Per's classes or workshops, and I'm also familiar seeing Per around TRU campus as Per completed a Master's of Education. Corey, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Like he said, my name is Corey Keith, and I've been living here in Kamloops for about 5 years now. So I basically do a lot of things in the community. On the volunteer side, I am the chair of Kaleidoscope Support Association, which will be a nonprofit directly supporting sexual and gender diverse persons. So lesbian, gay, bisexual, two-spirit, etc., folk. And part of that is Gender Haven, which is a support group for trans and non-binary, two-spirit, intersex folks. I also have my own private practice where I do a lot of coaching, counseling, consulting work. Half of that is around sexual and gender diversity. The other half is around authenticity, mindfulness, trying to create healthy relationships, all of those things. So those are the kind of the things that I really do that, I think that's a good start. Yeah,
and so just kind of segue with how we kind of got connected finally. I saw your Facebook ad for one of your upcoming workshops or workshop that's passed, and I just reached out and said, hey, I have questions. And you asked, what about? And I'm like, well, what's poly? What's this?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of questions about human sexuality, and there's not a lot of answers, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get someone who's in the field, knowledgeable, to kind of share something that is obviously near dear to you as you are working in the field and building a nonprofit and a whole bunch of sorts of things, of building workshops. Where should we start? Okay, we chatted about where we should start, but you know what? I don't even know where we should start at this point.
Well, let's start with the poly, because that's something you have questions about, and I'm sure a lot of folks out there have questions about, and then we can move from there.
Totally. So what is poly?
So poly is a short form for polyamorous. So folks that don't know, polyamorous is basically one type of ethical non-monogamy, where you are having consensual, egalitarian relationships with more than one person.
Okay, so it's the idea that, you know, you're what's the word? The side chick is the hip hop term, but it's a side chick. It's an allowed side chick. It's a legitimate, it's consensual. These are adults who agree that having multiple partners is totally A-okay.
So, and I would go beyond, not just because the side chick is sometimes when we think of that, we think of you have a primary couple, and then you go outside to have sex with someone else, and that would be seen as an open relationship.
Okay.
So that is still a type of ethical non-monogamy, assuming they're having conversations and all of those kind of things. Whereas polyamorous, the focus is on the relationship, not necessarily the sex. Although sex will happen between partners, but it's not the focus.
Okay.
So, and so I may have 2 or 3 partners as an individual, but it's not, I may not necessarily have a primary partner, or you could, and then one of those partner, let's say my primary partner has another partner, so they're in a romantic relationship with another person, and then I could have a sexual partner on the side, and it can have a number of different configurations depending on who are in situation or what works best for them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I guess you're basically rewriting the rules of what relationships are if you're a polyamorous individual.
Kind of. We are and we aren't. One of the biggest myths is that non-monogamy is just starting. Non-monogamy has been here since the beginning of humanity. So there's a book that's written by Christopher Ryan. I'm trying to remember the name of the book, and I was just talking about it at my workshop. But anyhow, it's basically the history of humanity, how we evolved from apes, and how most of the apes, for example, are non-monogamous. Mm-hmm. If you go to bonobos, they have sex as a handshake. It's a way to create bonds and exchange whatever, right? And a lot of early, when we were more indigenous as a humanity at that time, a lot of times we would have non-monogamous relationships as a form of protecting and contributing as a community to the children. So, for example, if a female has sex with several husbands, mm-hmm. she has a child. No one knows who is the father, but they all have an invested interest in protecting the child and supporting all these children.
It's like that one that show with that girl. Anyways, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you're almost building in a sense of community through the creation of a child whose bloodline you are unsure of.
Yes, and some indigenous people in Africa and those kind of things still do this in their own way. Indigenous people in North America, prior to colonization, had their own form of non-monogamy too. I'm not saying all nations, because every nation is different, mm-hmm. but there are certain ones. So within a lot of indigenous communities, their focus is how much can you contribute? So if you can support one, two, or more, the more you can support, the higher status you have in the community. And so it's about how much you can support and serve to the community, right?
Okay.
So they have a different way of looking at relationships and community in that way.
It's interesting. Okay. And
mm-hmm.
one thing that caught my eye about your Facebook ad was you were talking about poly-parenting in today, right? And so you described it, in the indigenous sense, going back to the beginning of time. Mm-hmm. Things are obviously a little bit different in Western civilization.
Yes.
Though hopefully a lot of us are quite open-minded.
Yes.
It's obviously going to be a very challenging thing to pull off in the 21st century. So where do you start? Is that I don't really know what the question I should ask right now.
Okay.
But poly-parenting, what are you sharing with people who are involved in or are thinking about doing that? How do you approach that subject?
Okay. So this is always a tricky one because, number one, being poly and a parent in this society, because polyamory, it's just the conversation's just starting. So a lot of poly parents are closeted. Right? They're not going to share, like, oh, I'm also a parent of so-and-so, and what does that look like? How are they supporting the children? Those kind of things. So that can sometimes restrict how your family is designed to support your children, right? Mm-hmm. Although more and more people are coming out. Yay. The thing is, it's about the conversation about how all the adults in the situation are supporting children, right? So you may have, certain people who have certain roles, right? Some people may be the primary caregiver, stay at home, that kind of thing. But you have other people who come in, support the child. People come and go, those kind of things. It's a lot of communication to say how that will work, mm-hmm. how you are supporting in that system, right? So it's really a lot of a family. The other thing is legalities, because our And I'm not a lawyer, but I have been to workshops where they are conferences where we've talked about Canadian law regarding this. There are some Canadian laws that are supportive, and not intentionally probably, but they are supportive in terms of that family system. However, if let's say one parent dies, then we don't have the legalities yet to. So if there's three married people in a relationship, they're not recognized in our legal code yet, right? And so if somebody dies, how are they getting the financial support? Or do they get what's the word? Custody of the children. So there's challenges like that may happen.
Now I want to point out for anyone who's listening at this point, right? These are all consenting adults.
Yes, absolutely.
100% consenting adults. I don't want someone to start thinking this is a bountiful situation.
No. There's a lot of confusion about that, and they're different. And even when a bountiful court case was happening, I was living in Vancouver at the time that was happening, and I knew some lawyers who were involved with that case, and a lot of poly people were definitely involved with the court case to make sure it was clear that these were two separate things. Unfortunately, the language of the law did not change. However, a lot of lawyers did assure us that whatever they put through would not target polyamorous people. So whether that will happen be practical in the future, we'll see, right?
So, but it's hopeful that the law is already considering.
Yes.
I don't want to say lifestyle, but it's the best word I can come up with right now.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
When you before we press record, you shared that your pronoun is per.
Correct.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because I am I am acknowledging that I am unknowledgeable of this sort of stuff. His and her, him, them, per. What does per mean? Where's that background?
Okay, so per is a short form for a person. So it's a pronoun that actually came from a feminist sci-fi novel. Now, I can't remember the novel or the author right now, but that's where I got it from. And so the great thing is it's a great gender-neutral pronoun for trans folk, really for anyone. I've known non-trans people who've used it. And so for anyone that, because you can't see me, I am visibly non-binary, transgendered. And so I chose this pronoun as a way to honor me, my identity, expression, all of those things, because I've tried on they, ze, she, he, all of those kind of things, and none of them really fit for me, but per felt like it was the best fit, partially because I'm a person, and at the core, that's really all that matters.
Totally.
Right? We still use language as a form of education and to honor us, but at the end of the day, we are just people, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And in terms of pronouns, per actually makes so much sense to me.
Yeah.
Like that's one that I can really get behind and support. Because we really are just people, and we're all really just trying to figure it out. Now, for someone who might be a little bit more traditional, which we know Kamloops is. Yeah. We're coming up on kind of the time that we usually do for this stuff for my podcast.
Yes.
What are some closing thoughts that you think you want to share to someone who's seeing Kamloops change in front of their eyes? They're seeing more arts, they're seeing more culture, more diversity, which are all fantastic things.
Absolutely.
We're sitting where we are, we see it around us. What is something that you think, as a person who I'm going to use the word, is a professional sexuality identity expert? Is that okay? Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. As someone who's a professional sexual identity expert, what do you want to share with Kamloops regarding the whole spectrum, or even just about your experience?
Okay. So I kind of call this like the big ball of yarn wibbly wobbliness of sexuality, because there are so many different spectrums and interconnections, and we talked about this before. There's so many different aspects and perceptions of this, and it's evolving through science and people's experiences, and the experiences are really educating us about what it means to be human. And I think this is one of the things that really impassions me about this topic, because we're really talking about what does it mean to be human, and it's not what people think. We have this limited view what it means to be human, and yet at the end of the day, we are so complex and beautiful beings. And I think that's what's really cool. And when we all of us start asking our questions, am I that which everyone tells me I am, or am I something more? And 9 times out of 10, we are all something more. And that's beautiful to me. Whatever you decide, whatever your journey in questioning that is yours, and I honor you in that. But I encourage everyone to challenge yourself. Ask yourself those deep questions. I know for myself, I've gone through huge journey of asking over and over again, and it's constantly evolving and changing. So yeah. I think before we close, I might want to also talk about my upcoming workshops too.
Absolutely, yeah. What are you teaching? What is the topic of choice of the workshops?
Okay, so I'm doing a diversity series. So I just did a Poly 101 workshop, and I will be that has been recorded, and I will be posting that on my Facebook page,
which is Spectra Services.
Yeah.
SPECTRA Services.
Yes, and also on my YouTube channel, and then there's 2 others. It'll be sexual and gender diversity training, primarily for professionals. So if you're a social worker, doctor, those kind of things, it's for you. And the last one is, and this came from my master's degree. I developed a new tool called queering genogram. So it's taking like a family tree, but much more complex, and using it as an assessment tool to support anyone really, but specifically LGBTQ folks. And so if you want to know more about that, and that is definitely more for social workers and counselors, if you want to know more about that tool, come to the workshop. And I will be doing one more later about what is called love languages and beyond. So this is really about creating those really important, authentic relationships that you want to have for yourself.
Your love languages workshop, is that built off of the book, The 5 Love Language? Yeah.
Yes.
I have a copy at the bedside table, and
yeah.
I think I got like the first 20 pages in before my wife and I just, fell asleep. But, Corey, I really appreciate you, first of all, trusting me to meet me today.
Yeah.
I think it takes a lot of courage to meet someone you met on the internet, to just, meet and have a conversation. And I think we accomplished the goal of that. Corey, I just want you to say one last thing. As someone, again, who's still understanding the LGBTQ community and will never fully understand it.
Yeah.
Do you have like 3 guiding principles for people to how can we respect the LGBTQ community as I guess the technical term is that I don't like it as a cis person, but how can we respect the LGBTQ community? What are some kind of 3 pointers just to keep them top of mind?
So I think the question you're asking, how the best can we be allies? What is the best way we can move towards that allyship? And there are a few things. Number 1, continue educating yourself. So coming to my workshops, reading books, asking questions. Obviously, if you're asking questions to individuals in the community, make sure you get to know them first, so they know that you're doing it out of respect, out of that you want to support them as a human being. Sometimes we are asked too soon, and we're going, Why are you asking this question?
I'm sorry. Asked too soon. What's an example? Did I ask you too soon?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
You're fine. So, for example, if I'm sitting out on the bench by the bus stop and somebody starts asking me, if I'm having a sex change or something.
Okay. Not cool.
Not cool.
Big, not cool stamp. Got it.
And usually any conversation around genitalia is just not cool unless you really know them.
I don't know why you would want to know.
Yeah, it's like, would you ask anyone else that question? Probably not. But in general, you want to get to know people anyway to create some trust before you're asking questions, right? So education, asking questions, and just be an ally in that, be an advocate, because often we are left defending ourselves a lot in our society, and depending on the community you're from, more or less, and sometimes depending on the community, we are sometimes at risk of being beat up or attacked or whatever, and that's slowly going by the wayside, but it still happens. Is be an advocate. If someone says something, stick up for them and say that's not okay. If they're right with you, have a conversation with them to say, do you prefer me to, speak up, or do you want for me just to be there as a support if you want to speak up for yourself, right? Because we want to empower people and honor where they're at, right? Some people are really quiet and shy, and they may not be able to say anything. Other people are a lot stronger, and they want that empowerment to say something, right? And I think those are the biggest things, is educate yourself, be an advocate, and ask questions.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Corey, for spending your part of your Saturday afternoon with me. I know you have a busy day, and I'll let you go. And I want to encourage anyone who wants to have these sort of conversations. Reach out to myself. I'm looking to have more conversations with the Kamloops community, and B, That We Are is a fantastic place to have these conversations. Yeah. It was the cafe of choice for you because it's where you feel comfortable, and I think that's important is to make sure when you are having these conversations that the people are at ease, they're comfortable, they don't feel backed into a corner, and when you open up your heart, hopefully they open up theirs. So thank you, Corey, once again. Check out Spectra Services for PER's whole lineup of gender identity, sexuality, mindfulness, wellness, a variety of things, very educated, masters of education, right? This has got a real piece of paper with real academia behind everything Corey is saying. So, thank you once again. And hopefully everyone tunes into the next episode of the Kameo podcast. Thank you.